welcome to another episode of the Back Row Redskins show, man. I got a special guest for you guys, my boy Kevin Hicks. He's been a Redskins fan for how long?
All my life. Born into a Redskins family. One of those families where you have 30 Redskins fans and one random Cowboys fan just to be a hater.
So this guy knows the stuff. He is Mr. Redskins, so to speak. So, yeah, hey, anybody who's viewing live, feel free to chime in with comments and questions, and we'll dive in. But I wanted to kind of get started and kick this episode off with fantasy impact for the Washington football team players. It's going to take me a while.
Man, we're going to call them Redskins for a long time.
Redskins, man.
All habits die hard.
Right. All right, so let's kick it off with Dwayne Haskins, man. Tell me, what do you see in Dwayne Haskins this season, and what kind of impact do you see him having?
I'll tell you what I love about Dwayne Haskins this year is the fact that everyone else hates on him. Like, anyone outside of the area just assumes that the guy can't play. You know, They look at a few games at the beginning of the year last year. They really want to ignore the last 4 games, but they just assume that he can't play. What I like that he's done this year is he committed in the offseason, not just words. It doesn't seem like he's pulling an RG3 where he feels entitled to anything. What did he lose 20 pounds? Working out with his receivers, seeing his footwork, his downfield vision, his touch, his accuracy, all of those things that kind of plagued him a little bit last year. It seems like he's been very intentional about refining those things. And the reason that no one gives him any credit is because they say, hey, you've got the worst receiving core in the league. You know, you can't pass for any yards. But the reality is, every quarterback in the league is going to pass for some yards. I mean, there's not going to be any quarterback that passes for 0 yards, right? Even in a bad year, he'll pass for, 3,250 or 3,500 in a bad year. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is you're going to have 3,500 receiving yards on this team. So whether that's going to McLaurin or to Sims or to AGG or out the backfield, it's coming somewhere. You're getting 3,500 yards from here. So I love the fact that everyone's ignoring the team because it gives us opportunities to buy low for practically free at the end of the day.
Exactly. And a couple points was, remember last year, Jay Gruden, I don't know what he was doing. He didn't give Haskins any snaps with the number one team, with the number one offense. So tossing him in there versus, was it the New England Patriots, best defense in the league, and expecting him to produce at a high clip, it just doesn't work that way. And not only that, you do mention that we had the worst receiving core last year, so to speak. But remember, we came in with Doxson, Paul Richardson, and Trey Quinn. Those were the guys, and it took for Doxson to get cut for us to give McLaurin a chance to kind of prove what he can do. So it's kind of funny to me that people were found later on. Harmon and Sims definitely got lots of love towards the end of the year, but this year, like you say, he's worked on his body, he's working on his game, and like you say, he's gonna have 3,500 yards plus, but we also realize that as much as the team loves to run the ball, they're going to love to throw the ball, especially in that offense. Talk to me about that offense.
So I think they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more than you would expect just because you're in comeback mode, right? The teams that can run the ball, think the 49ers. You control the game plan, that's when you run the ball. So it's a great situation. If we're able to run the ball, that means we're in control of a lot of games. That's a great problem to have, right? But generally speaking, that's not the situation that we find ourselves in with a big lead and just running out the clock. So, that being said, being in a position where you have to throw is, it's a pretty good situation from a fantasy standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's not always the best situation for your win-loss record, but it is great from a fantasy standpoint. You don't want the quarterback of the team that's always ahead and sitting on the clock. I mean, look at Jimmy Garoppolo in the playoffs last year.
Right.
When he had 8 passes. You
Right.
don't want that guy as your fantasy quarterback. So in a situation right here, I mean, we have a great defensive line, but very, very inexperienced corners, right?
Right.
Outside of this area, no one knows who the corners on our team are. Question marks about Darby, got rid of Norman, got rid of pretty much anyone that anyone had heard of.
Right.
And while we see some upside from some of these younger guys, I would imagine that a lot of opposing quarterbacks are going to test them. So, assuming that the pass rush can't get a sack on every play, we give up some big plays. What I mean? We're going to have to stay in the game. So, Haskins has shown a lot of moxie. You look at him late in the year last year, improved footwork, improved decision making, improved confidence. And then this year, I mean, you see the extra work that he's put in above and beyond. And I'll tell you this. If no one has heard of Steven Sims outside this area,
right,
all I say to do is go to YouTube, Steven Sims highlights.
Oh, we're gonna dive into Steven Sims in a minute. You best believe that.
Yeah, I mean, and for sure it was a blow that that Harmon is out for the year. Obviously, it's a huge blow because it was already the youngest receiving core in the league, very inexperienced. So now you've thrust AGG into a situation where it looks like he'll probably have to start on the outside.
Right. Absolutely.
But for what it's worth, they showed last year that they are willing to give a rookie meaningful reps. Look no further than Terry McLaurin. Look no further than Steven Sims. So, you can't just say just because he's a rookie, there's no way he can put up production because, they didn't see with McLaurin.
And another thing that I see is with our wide receivers this year being weaker, so to speak, than last season, we're going to throw the ball to these running backs. I am excited for that aspect of the evolution of what Haskins is going to have. People are thinking that he does not have the weapons. He went on and said, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, that he wants to be more of a mobile quarterback. Doesn't mean that he's going to be running all the time, but he wants to be moved around in the pocket, run some play action fakes, some options. But what I like is we saw Bryce Love in college being a dual threat running back, right? We saw all these different guys, McKissick, Antonio Gibson. So we got the weapons at the running back position to give him extra ball catchers. So it's going to be interesting to see how the running backs fit in with the wide receivers. I think it's going to be an offense where we don't know who's getting the ball. Yeah. He's going to find that open guy. So I'm very optimistic about Dwayne Haskins. Now, how many touchdowns do you think that he's going to have?
I would say that that's going to be really dependent on how good the defense is. Okay. The reason I say that is because if the defense, naturally speaking, the defensive line is the strength of the team, right? Before the Geis injury, it was arguable that running back was number 2, and it probably still is, frankly. Right. Still is the second best position on the team. So the good defense and the running game go hand in hand. So if you have a great defense and a great running game, naturally you're going to have less passing touchdowns. Whereas if you have a terrible defense, it tends to lend itself to more passing touchdowns. So that being said, I don't think it's a stretch to say that, assuming the team will be bad, 20 touchdowns passing is reasonable. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. Again, just because these guys are young doesn't mean they're not good. You look at Steven Sims, he was undrafted, but he came through and was the biggest playmaker on the team. You mentioned earlier that the receiving core is worse. I don't even know that I'd say that it's worse than it was last year, to be completely honest. Because look at it, step for step. You got McLaurin last year versus McLaurin this year. You have to imagine that he's a little bit better. Your second guy is Paul Richardson last year from the beginning. Right. Would you rather have Paul Richardson on the outside, or would you rather have Antonio Gandy?
That's
I'd rather
true.
have Andy Golden. I would take that trade 1 for 1. Then you have Sims last year, now Sims again this year, further developed. So it's hard for me to say that this year's receiving core is worse than last year, because 2 of the 3 guys are the same and they're further developed. They had a whole offseason of chemistry with Haskins. Then you bring in Gandy Golden, who's more talented than Richardson or Trey Quinn was. So.
Right. And we're going to get into Terry McLaurin, man. I had bold predictions for this guy. I think that Terry McLaurin is a guy that can get you 1,200 yards, and I believe he reaches double-digit touchdowns this season. He gets to 10 touchdowns, something that has not been done in a long time.
Terry McLaurin, the guy that you refused to trade me in the Dynasty League.
Yeah, man, you can't have him, man. That's my guy, man. That's my guy. I'm a big Terry McLaurin guy.
Agree. In fact, 1,200 yards is well within his range of outcomes. I honestly think it could be more, but I try to temper expectations and try to keep it reasonable, right? Yeah. But when you look around the NFC East, let's just start with the NFC East, right? Okay. Sure, you've got Amari Cooper as the best receiver in the NFC East,
right?
But he's got 3 stud receivers, sharing the route on the same on the same team. Most teams that you look at in the NFL, with very few notable exceptions, most of them have at least a stud tight end that's going to siphon off receptions, or a stud number 2, or at least an extremely solid number 2, right? I wouldn't hesitate to say that the Redskins have the worst tight end situation in the league. I don't think that's big. You literally don't have a tight end with more than 20 receptions in their career. You don't have that tight end, that safety valve to siphon off the receptions there. So you've got a 1A, and then everyone else, as talented as Sims and AGG may be, I anticipate them being a distant 2. Like, he's a 1A that's nearly uncontested with the value that he has to the team. So, without a tight end, it's really hard to say that. I mean, you're looking at 1,200 yards is what, 80 yards a game?
Right.
Is that unreasonable over the course of 16 games? I don't think so.
Exactly. I mean, he can definitely do 1,200. And one thing I like about McLaurin is that, like you said, he's a 1A. So he's going to command targets. Just think about the target share that is available for Haskins, being that they have that rapport together from college. He's going to force feed this guy. I'm seeing at least 10 targets a game.
Yeah.
And the beauty of what McLaurin did last season was that he was able to dominate against the top corners in the league. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Darius Slade said he was the best receiver that he went against. Darius Slade said, I couldn't cover this guy.
Exactly.
And I mean, a lot of times they threw the ball to him in contested situations, and he just came down with it. He just wants it. He's got that work ethic. He just wants it more. And
hey, who was that corner from the Vikings that he was killing? Even though he didn't have a big game because Haskins was just overthrowing him. But who was that corner?
I don't know. Let's see. What's that?
Was it Rhodes?
Xavier Rhodes could have been. Not really sure. Don't particularly remember that game specifically, but what I will say is when you've got a guy that's just shown that no matter where you put the ball, he's going to go for it, then it gives the quarterback so much more confidence because he realizes I don't have to be super duper accurate. Just put it in his area and let him do his thing. And you see that with DeAndre Hopkins, right? Watson didn't always throw an accurate ball. He just threw it in the direction of Hopkins and knew that he was going to get it. Drew Brees, I would never say he's inaccurate. He's extremely accurate. But the thing is, he knew if he threw it in the direction of Michael Thomas, there was a 90% chance he was going to come down. You see that with Larry Fitzgerald as well. And I have seen that same kind of tenacity in McLaurin. And so when you don't have a reliable check down option, obviously we got rid of Jordan Reed, right? So check down option. You've got Sims is going to be commanding the slot. Then you got the guys coming out the backfield. But if the plays aren't diagnosed for that, you have to imagine that McLaurin is the primary recipient on the majority of the plays. Now, what I would caution against is Haskins getting so fixated on McLaurin that he makes bad decisions, right?
That's the thing.
My brother made a comment the other day where he was saying Haskins sometimes must look around the room and be like, man, I got nothing to work with. But then I pointed out to him, the reality is this is all he knows. I mean, these people were in his class. People say the same thing about him. People say that he's not a legitimate player, but he sees every day the skill that not only McLaurin has, but he saw what Harmon had. He saw he sees what Sims has, because these guys all came in together.
Right.
You understand what I mean? So when you come in together, you see the hard work. You see the skill that people aren't seeing all the way on the West Coast or in the middle of the U.S. Talking about the Redskins. They don't watch Steven Sims highlights, but he sees that. And so, the key to him being successful is spreading that trust around, right? Not just putting it in McLaurin, because that's where you get into Jameis Winston territory.
Now, speaking of trust, we've seen him work out with Harmon as well, and he's gone. So what do you see Steven Sims doing this year? Because it's McLaurin and then it's Sims and AGG. So let's talk Sims first and AGG.
Yeah. So Sims is a slot guy. Yeah, he's not an outside guy, right? So when Harmon goes down, you don't just assume that Sims is going to be on the outside. I mean, they may have to do that every now and then, but that's not his.
He can play the outside. He can play the outside. I don't see
his skill set is more suited to getting the ball in the slot because he's super quick, right? He's extremely quick, extremely explosive after the catch. But yes, he showed last year he can play outside. He can make some tough sideline catches. He's a fiery guy, gets the team fired up. So with that being said, AGG's skill set is definitely more of an outside skill set. So just looking at the personnel, AGG is much more likely to be on the outside. He's tall, he's big, he can get down the field. So your best personnel set has Sims in the slot as opposed to outside. So Sims is one of those guys. You can get the ball in his hands quickly, and he'll turn a screen into a long game, right? You see his special teams. I'm wondering if he'll still be on special teams this year because he's such a critical receiving core this year.
On my last pod or 2 pods ago, I said, man, maybe they should limit his special teams. Let's find somebody else. I don't mind giving Antonio Gibson some of that.
Is a great addition for that,
because we need him. You know what I'm saying? We need him, and it's not like where we have the luxury of having this guy and then him getting hurt. Like, Sims is so vital to what we do this season that is crazy.
He's so vital. You can't lose another receiver. You absolutely can't do that. I read earlier in the offseason that part of the plan for Antonio Gandy Golden was to use him kind of like an H-back, right? So this may have been why they weren't really so gung-ho on getting another tight end, because they wanted to use him kind of like a big tight end, right? Move him around, let him play outside sometimes, let him play next to the line of scrimmage, and just create nightmare mismatches for linebackers.
Exactly.
It sounds great, right? But when you lost Harmon, now you lose some of that flexibility because he has to be split out wide more so than, in the X position. So with that being said, you've lost some of your versatility already because you lost Harmon. So Gandy Golden's probably going to be outside more so than athletic tight end.
And then you still got Dontrell Inman, who's going to step in and help. I don't know how much he can help, but I do like his game. He's a sure-handed wide receiver, so that helps. I think he makes a team to round out that group. I think those will be our top 4 wide receivers, it's safe to say.
Yeah, it's
about
but what I will add to that is it's usually not a good thing when you're adding a guy a month before the season starts and he's in like a critical piece of your rotation, and he was still available, which sometimes.
So check out this question right here. It says, "Where do y'all see Inman playing?" And we just started talking.
Yeah, we were just touching on that. Inman has definitely shown flashes. A few years ago with San Diego, he was kind of a top 65 wide receiver for fantasy purposes. Like you mentioned, he's got good hands. Not extremely explosive, but he's he can make the big play every now and then, right?
Right.
And over the last several years, we've seen so many instances in which we've had to sign a receiver right as the season started or even in the middle of the season, and then they had to play significant reps, right? It would not shock me if the Redskins are watching The Wire or the Washington football team. Man, I'm going to say
right.
If the football team is watching The Wire and, grabs one more guy because, the other guys are relatively unproven. We've seen flashes of what Cam Sims can do in preseason. But
man, I'm done with Cam Sims. You
were big on Cam Sims before last year started. You thought he had a little something to him.
Man, and Trey Quinn, I'm done with him too, man. Trey Quinn, Cam Sims, I've had enough. I'd rather just see what the two undrafted guys can do in Wright and I think the other one is Johnson. So, and it's still a poor group together when those two are your either if Trey Quinn and Cam Sims round out that group at 6, or even the two undrafted guys round out the group at 6, still, I still feel like we need one more.
Let me tell you what I prefer. Rather than thinking about them as the 6,
right?
I actually still like the idea of putting Gibson in the slot as one of those receivers because he's so explosive.
Right.
I see the question here on Darvin Kitsy. We'll talk about him in a second. Yeah, but he's so explosive that you can have Love in the backfield. You put Gibson in the slot.
Yep.
And you have so many options about what you can do. He's got those valuable reps at receiver. Right.
Yep.
Not just as a receiving running back, but literally as a receiver.
Right.
In Memphis, he's been all over the field as quarterback and running back and receiver. So I think all of that stuff was taken into consideration. I think when they made that draft pick so early, it wasn't really early, but 3rd round, they were thinking, hey, with this guy, we're getting running back depth and we're getting receiver depth.
Right.
And I was reading some of the coaching interviews earlier in the week, and they say that when they ask him questions, sometimes he's answering it as a receiver. Then they're having to remind him, okay, you're in the running back room right now. You got to answer. Here's your assignment from a running back perspective. But what that shows is that he's learning it both ways.
Right.
And so he's probably going to be really valuable out of that role, kind of like the Bears used Tariq Cohen in the slot pretty often. I think that's how we're going to use him as well. So in my mind, Inman is really receiver number 5. In my mind, my assumption is that Antonio Gibson is probably going to be that 4th guy on the field when you need a 4th receiver.
I hope so. And that's why I am willing to go and pick up Antonio Gibson and put him on my team because even though it says running back, he's getting a lot of receptions. And if he's getting a lot of receptions, that's more points in PPR than actually running the ball. So if he's getting, let's say, 5 or more receptions, 50 or more yards, that just bodes well. That's already 10 points.
Yeah, right? I'll tell you this. I'm in one league that has it's not just PPR, it's 3 points per reception.
Okay.
3 points per reception. And I am going to be pushing to get this guy because
nice.
I think it's easily attainable that he gets 40 receptions out the backfield.
Nice.
I think that's really reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really And that's not counting the yards after those receptions, and that's not counting, the rushing yards that he's
right
as well. So
hey, stick with wide receivers for a minute. Hit on Kidsy, then we're gonna go into running backs.
So now I know Kidsy was more your boy. I want you to talk about Kidsy because when it comes to preseason, I didn't see him in the regular season much, and
let me pull up something for you. Let me pull up some video. Like Kidsy, man, I was looking at him because I saw him more so in preseason, obviously, than the regular season. And when he did play in the regular season, it was more so like, special teams type stuff. So I'm about to roll this video. Just give me 1 second. He has great potential, has decent size. I think he's about 6 feet even, I believe. And let me go ahead and roll this. Yeah, I really, really like his game. I was in a Redskins group, and they was talking about Kidsy, and then everybody was pissed off because they were saying, he's just another guy. But a lot of the receivers that we have now started as just the other guy, just another guy. So let's check out some of these highlights real quick. Yeah. He has decent hands. He can run some routes, but I just have not seen enough of him for him to be a factor, but he does have a great chance to make the team. He's been working with Haskins tough. So decent catch right there. He has decent speed. I looked up his 40. He wasn't so much of a speedster, but he's just a guy. Honestly, he's like a better version of Dontrell Inman. So, he's nothing flashy special, but he can make this team, man. I honestly think he can make this team and really make an impact. Maybe as the 5th or 6th guy.
He reminds me. There's a guy we picked up in the middle of the year a couple of years ago. He's a guy that bounced around the league. It felt like he'd been in Arizona.
Malcolm Floyd?
Malcolm Floyd, yeah. He's like Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd.
Yeah.
That's kind of who he reminds me.
Exactly. Yeah. Michael Floyd. Yeah. See, I mean, he has good size. He makes contested catches. Granted, this is preseason.
And of course, he fumbles there right as
he fumbles right there. Then he fumbles right there. But yeah, I think he's a guy. I mean, obviously, he'll have a leg up on the undrafted guys. Maybe
for sure. Anyone with experience and you puts the ball on the ground looked like he was down.
Right.
Yeah, I would say anyone who has experience in the system and familiarity with the quarterback is always going to have a leg up on someone coming off the street, which is why I kind of temper my expectations on what we're going to get from Inman.
Right.
I tend to favor explosive players, right? So for me, best case scenario is Inman barely sees the field. And that's just because we're getting so much out of McLaurin and AGG and Sims and Gibson, right? Of course, you need to cycle guys in. So, it is good to have that versatility and the fact that he can play. But, yeah, I say that a situation where you're relying on your 5th and 6th wide receivers usually isn't a really, really good situation.
Right, at all.
And that goes for any team,
Right.
Unless you're Kansas City and you have Mahomes as the quarterback and it doesn't matter who you're throwing to.
Right. So let's talk some running backs, man. We got AP the GOAT. This is my favorite running back of all time. I think this guy has a potential to run for 1,200 yards this season. Why do I say that? He's going to get the ball early and often. I know that Scott Turner loves to throw the ball on first down, but this is AP we're talking about here, man.
I don't think this happening. And here's why. And no disrespect to AP. I think he's going to run just as hard as he always has. But I think this is the first year that you're going to have 3 healthy running backs. In the past, AP he stumbled into, and this, again, no disrespect to him because he's probably my 3rd favorite running back of all time. Barry will always be my number 1 of all time. But anyway, he looked like Barry right there.
Hey,
I mean,
don't sleep on this boy, man. Don't sleep on him, man.
He can flat out play. Okay, but I think it has nothing to do with him. I think it has everything to do with the fact that 2 years ago when they brought him in, it was the expectation that he was going to be sharing with Geis.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened was Geis got injured and Chris Thompson got injured. And then lo and behold, he's last man standing.
Right.
You know? And then last year, kind of the same thing. We're thinking Geis is going to be healthy again. They drafted Bryce Love with the intention of redshirting him. Mm-hmm. Thompson was hurt again for most of the year. And so, I mean, him being the Iron Man, he was generally the last man standing, right? So we're looking at, 1,000-yard season 2 years ago, 900 last year. This year,
900 in how many games? He played less games last year. Don't forget about that.
Let me look it up. Let me look it up.
Yeah, I think he played maybe 14 games.
Let's see.
Because, I mean, obviously he didn't play against the Eagles last year because of stupid Jay Gruden wanted to go ahead and bench the guy for no apparent reason.
We're looking at 898 yards, so right at 900. Mm-hmm. And how many games? Looks like
hey, man, shout out to James, man. James is rocking with us tonight, man. Appreciate you, bro.
So I'll say this. The only reason I disagree, like I said, it doesn't have anything to do with him. I think it has to do with the fact that Bryce Love is healthy now. Antonio Gibson is healthy now.
Antonio Gibson is playing more wide receiver. We've already established that.
We don't know that. We don't know it yet. We don't know it yet. I mean, because he's got the ability to do both, right?
Right.
So if you've got Peterson,
mm-hmm.
let's just assume that he's RB1, right? Okay. And that's assuming that Bryce Love isn't healthy or they want to take it easy with him. He's RB1. You've got Bryce Love now with the ability to spell him on the running downs. Mm-hmm. You've got Gibson with the ability to play third down.
Right.
I just think there won't be enough volume there for him to get the 1,200.
Okay, I got one for you.
Okay.
Who leads the team in touchdowns?
Ooh.
In Russian touchdowns. Sorry.
That's tough.
You see what I'm saying? As of right now,
you know what? And this might be a very optimistic answer for me.
Okay.
I say Bryce Love.
You said Bryce Love? Okay. I respect that. I respect that. I can't be mad at it at all. I mean, obviously, it would be wise for us to see what we have in Bryce Love because this season, I believe that if Bryce Love shows that he's not healthy or does not really show like he can be the guy, especially a franchise guy, then we're drafting a running back next year.
Yeah.
There's another solid class coming out. You know what I'm saying? So don't be surprised if we get that guy from Clemson if he makes it. If he makes it to the second round, because we're not getting him in the first round.
Etienne, Travis.
So, I mean.
Here's what I say. Actually, I'm going to go revisit that answer. I think that Bryce Love, if he stays healthy the whole year, is the most interesting running back. Right. I think he'll be the most explosive.
Okay.
Most touchdowns is tough because when you think touchdowns, you think get in the red zone. Who do you give the ball to? Right.
I'm thinking like the goal line carries.
Yeah, I think Peterson might edge him out on that front, just from a goal line perspective.
I mean,
but look at I think a year that Love stays healthy is a really good year.
Okay. I mean, here's my thing with Love. I mean, I have Love obviously in 2 or 3 dynasty leagues already. I believe in the guy. I don't know if he's going to be the guy this year, but if he's healthy and he's doing his thing, I can see 800 yards rushing. I can see 5 touchdowns.
I honestly don't even see 800 yards rushing for if he's healthy and they give him running back 1B treatment or 1A treatment, sure.
Right.
I honestly don't think he'll get that much. I think he's more of a 500 yard because again, you've got 3 guys. Assuming everyone stays healthy, you've got Gibson, you've got Peterson, you've got Love, right? You're not going to have 2,000-yard rushers or anywhere close to 1,000-yard rushers on the same team.
I feel it. Did you remember that game When
I think it's more of a situation where Peterson gets 800, Love gets 500, Gibson gets 350.
350. Do you remember that game when Geis and AP went off? I think it was maybe against Carolina or Detroit. I can't remember.
Wouldn't have been too many games. Guys hadn't played too much. So.
Geis had two really good ones.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been Carolina. Yeah, I think Geis had like 130, and then AP had like 99, almost 100, and then they both had a touchdown each. So I'm looking at a scenario where people are saying, oh, AP's getting old, AP this, AP that. If you're keeping AP fresh with the other two running backs, it only bodes well, man. I am not going to count out AP. I cannot do it. And
I agree with that.
I mean, how many yards a game do you need to get to 1,000? Was it like 60 something?
Yeah, it's surprisingly
it's so low. 1,000 yards used to be a big thing.
62.5.
1,000-yard back. I get it. But even with the three running backs, I still think something in me is telling me AP has a lot to prove. He had big goals. He said, of course, he wants to win a Super Bowl. I don't know how long he's going to play. We're not in the contentions this year, but we definitely will be next year for sure. Then he says that he wants to break the all-time record.
He's going to need 4,000 more yards.
4,000 more yards. 4,200 to be exact, or 4,100 and some change. So
yeah,
it's going to take for him to go to a team where he can get the carries, because it all comes down to carries, And
listen, I'll be honest. I will check myself here. I will say when the Redskins first signed Peterson, I'm like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. He one of the greatest running backs of all time. But We've seen this before, right? We saw this with Sean Alexander, right? We saw it with Emmitt Smith going to the Cardinals and whatever. Sometimes you have a great running back and they're past their prime. Right. And that's what I thought we were going to get here. But no, he's shown the same juice, the same nastiness when he runs. So he had one good year, and I was like, okay, cool. He had one good year. I'm thinking the next year is going to be the year that he's just roster fire, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up, last year, didn't he get the longest touchdown run of his career, like a 98-yarder? And I mean, you just see how nasty he runs. And so when they re-signed him in the offseason, at first I was like, really? Like, how long do you expect this to keep happening, right? I was thinking it was time for the youth group. It was time for Geis, Love. And so here's where I'm checking myself. I know that I'm partial to younger guys. I'm always partial to younger guys. Right. In a dynasty league, once a person gets about 28, you're starting to be too old for me. Right. Push my chips in the middle of the table and cash in for some younger guys, right? So I do have a bias. Right. That being said, do I think Peterson can get 800? Yes. Do I think he can get 1,000? Yes. But I think in order for him to get 1,000, one of the running backs gets hurt. If one of the running backs gets hurt, he gets 1,000. I think if all three are healthy, they don't want to push him.
Right.
It's not necessary for him to get 1,000. Yeah.
I see AP. This is possibly his last season in DC. And
he's got a multi-year deal, but yeah.
Hey, why not run him to the ground? You save Bryce Love for the future. You save our future guys. You give everybody carries. But if you're going to run somebody to the ground, it's AP, man.
Possibly. But what I will say is you have to look at the coaching staff as well. And this Scott Turner system tends to be more throwing the ball out of the backfield rather than running. Hey, and that tends to fit Love and Gibson's skill sets better than
right.
Hey, that's part of why I'm hedging my number a little bit for Gibson.
But don't get it twisted though. AP will stay on the field. He can catch the ball.
He can.
Hey, I was looking at some highlights and some stats. The year when he had he always gets hurt and comes back and does something superhuman. So one year he came back and he caught like 45 balls for like 300 plus yards, but he never gets more than 2 touchdowns receiving in any year, if you go back and look at the stats. So I was like, good Lord, this dude is not human. this dude, this dude can really do it all. But a lot of teams that he's been on, they don't throw the ball. Even last year and the year before, when they did throw the ball to Adrian Peterson, he had some success because you look at it as an extension of him running the ball. You put the ball in his hands in a good spot in open space. Oh man, he can get by a linebacker. He can run somebody over. So I'm real optimistic.
I'll say that he's not stone hands. He can catch it. You know, his career high catching it looks like 43 back in 2009.
Right.
He caught 40 a few years later in 2012. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's not one of those things that, you know, he's not going to step in and be Christian McCaffrey or anything. But can he catch it? Sure, he can. But I would just imagine, and of course I'm not on the coaching staff, but I would imagine that when you're looking for someone to catch the ball out the backfield and do magic with it, mm-hmm. you're going to want to dial up Antonio Gibson or Bryce Love for that play.
All right. So that's our fantasy impact. Let's dive into some actual real football. I want to talk defensive line. How many sacks do you see this defensive line getting this season?
Man, I think this is the top defensive line in the NFL.
Yep.
With respect intended to San Francisco.
Right. Well, San Francisco lost Buckner now, so they're not as strong.
But they replaced them, you know.
With Kinlaw.
They drafted a defensive tackle in the first round this year that was able to just step right in and replace them. Right? So, you're really not. I would say if the 49ers don't. I don't think the 49ers are going to lead the league in sacks. I think, honestly, the Redskins.
Even last year, they didn't lead the league in sacks. I pulled up a stat the other night, and I put it on Twitter, and I think their leading sack getter had like 10, and that must have been
it was a great cohesive unit. And I really don't think they're going to lose any of that cohesion because, I mean, Javon Kinlaw is every bit as good as the tackle that they lost. So, where I think the Redskins are advantageous is that we have more skill at the defensive end position, mm-hmm. and then the talent at defensive tackle is just as good, right? A lot of people have a good defensive end or two, but very few have two elite tackles.
Hey, three
elite defensive ends. Oh, three elite tackles. And you know what? That's the crazy part. Like, nobody is giving us credit for having three tackles. You know?
Exactly.
Everyone always mentions Payne and Allen.
Right.
But, you know, we really have three elite defensive tackles and then three elite defensive ends.
Hey, Big Mac go hard in the paint, man. That boy, he has the potential. He probably is not going to start, but he has the potential to lead us in sack. Man, my boy James be on it, man. My boy James be on it. He said, Matt is going to lead us in sacks. And
I'll tell you what.
I was saying it, he typed it.
Here's what I'm concerned about. And when I say concerned, I don't mean in a bad way.
Okay.
I think Ioannidis is so good, we mm-hmm. won't be able to keep him. I think that
he's under contract.
What's that?
He's under contract. I think.
No, but what I mean is, you know how everyone's talking about, where do you think we have the depth to make a trade?
Well, you got Ryan Anderson.
Other than the defensive line.
I know you got Ryan Anderson. Okay, you got Tim Settle. So you can still go deep into Ryan Anderson is our fourth best defensive end.
Ryan Anderson's linebacker.
He's linebacker, but they're going to use him at defensive end. I've seen that they've been using him in the defensive line more so than linebacker. So he's not been in the linebacker room from what I'm hearing in camp. So it seems like they're going to use him as a backup DE to back up one of the other guys, and then he might be used at the SAM. But they say that he's playing more DE than linebacker, which is crazy to me because he's smart guy.
That kind of feels like a bit of a waste. That would be very odd to me. To be honest.
Which is why I feel like if we're going to trade somebody, that's the guy we trade.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to trade somebody, you got Tim Settle who can start on a lot of teams. So you don't have to like dive into your third guy, you know, or your second or third guy to trade to kind of, you know, continue to build the team. You can dive into your fourth guys, you know, in terms of rankings and still be able to get value.
Possibly, but are you going to be able to get the value that you could get for an Ioannidis?
That's true. That's true. But okay,
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, if we were to trade, I can't even say his name. Big Matt. I call him Big Matt. if we're able to trade him, what would a trade look like?
Okay. Let's see. Defensive linemen are always in vogue, right? Everyone needs that, unless you are Washington or San Fran. Everyone else could use a better defensive lineman. So if you are looking to bolster your offense, and let's say who calls? Let's say.
Okay, I got one for you. Tampa Bay.
Oh, I had a feeling this was coming. Okay, Tampa Bay calls, and let me guess, you're going OJ Howard?
Nah, Chris Godwin.
Oh, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for a tight end, honestly, of OJ Howard's skill set and capability, yes, he was a former first-round pick. I get it. I'm not giving more than Ryan Anderson. They're not getting Big Matt. I'm sorry. For OJ Howard, can't do it.
I mean, you're essentially trading for a first-round pick, and you're trading away Ioannidis, who was what? Was he a fifth?
He was a fifth, but he's outperformed that fifth round.
He's obviously outperformed it, right? I mean,
right.
But what I'm saying is you're essentially trading a backup defensive tackle for a backup. And fair, I'm saying based on current roster construction, okay. You're trading a backup defensive tackle for a tight end who would start for you. And from Tampa's perspective, they're giving up a backup tight end for a defensive tackle.
All right, let me ask you this. On your current dynasty team right now, I'm about to get you on this one. On your current dynasty team right now, it's pretty stacked, it's pretty loaded, right? So that means that you got Saquon Barkley, you got two other guys or whatever. Who is your fourth best running back? I'm about to get you real quick. Who's your fourth best running back?
In the league I'm in with you, I don't have a fourth running back.
Let's just say Joe Mixon. Is Joe Mixon gone?
Yeah, I traded him last year. Okay, but let's go with my third running back.
So that means your third running back is who?
It's David Montgomery.
David Montgomery. That's not a good example. That's not a good example. Okay, who is your fourth best wide receiver? I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay, so here we go. So, you know what? My fourth running back, I do have a fourth. My fourth one, Darrell Henderson.
Darrell Henderson. Okay, yeah. Let's go to
Let's go wide receiver. Okay, so here we go. Dynasty team. My running backs are Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb. Third is Montgomery. Fourth is Henderson. Receivers, pretty deep. I got Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Hollywood Brown, McCole Hardman, Brandon Cooks.
Okay, so let's say that you need more tight end depth.
Okay. So tight end right now, I've got Kelsey and I've got Hunter Henry.
You're loaded. So let's just say that you didn't have Hunter Henry.
Okay.
Are you willing to trade Stephon Diggs for Higbee?
Stephon Diggs for Higbee. You mean in my situation?
Yeah. You won't be.
No.
And it's exactly because it's not the same value. And that's the same thing with Big Matt. Big Matt, it just can't get you an OJ Howard. It just got.
I'm not saying that's a good trade. I'm not even saying it's a trade I would make.
Right.
Right. What I'm saying is a trade for a position of need. You're not going to invert your argument. Tampa's not going to trade Chris Godwin for Matt Ioannidis.
And that's fine. I wouldn't either. Nobody would. But I'm just saying you got to match production for production.
Okay.
Granted, yes, it is a position of need. You see the Browns saying, hey, we want a fourth-round pick for Njoku, okay, who's another guy in the same O.J. Howard mold to where they were drafted first round, but they have not produced. So my thing is you got to trade production for production to just make everything kind of make sense. So, I mean, you're better off trading Big Matt for a second-round pick.
So how about that? I agree. I agree. From a team perspective, 100%.
Right.
Now, if you're saying production, say the Chargers offer you Hunter Henry.
That's better. That's better. But do I do it? Probably not. But hey.
Starting tight end for a rotation defensive tackle.
I hear what you're saying.
And again, I don't say this as a slight to Ioannidis. I love Ioannidis. And it's
Henry in the third.
Benefit to the team. But when you
see that? Henry in the third. That's kind of like
they don't give up Henry in a third.
It's like Matt is just so good that this is not a good example for me. I just can't wrap my head around.
But isn't that why you trade him? Because he's so good.
Yes, but I feel like you can get more.
Do you think anyone's giving up a first? I don't think anyone's giving up a first for him.
Nobody's giving up a first, but a second I can see. I can see a second and a player. I think a second and a player.
I think a second. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around a second and a player because you get like the Redskins traded didn't they trade a second and a player or a third and a player to get Alex Smith? That's a starting quarterback, right? You know, you don't do that per se for a defensive tackle unless he's
mind you, if he goes somewhere else, he's automatically a Pro Bowler. If he goes somewhere else and he's starting and getting snaps, the numbers he's getting here, you're going to see an uptick potentially.
Possibly. Probably. Not even possibly. Probably.
Because he's just such a great talent. James says that Matt is a starting DT. Yeah, he's a starting DT. Anywhere else but on our team, and he should be starting on the Redskins. But guess what? They're gonna say because we drafted and we invested in these guys getting first round. You know, I can see them trading Jonathan Allen for a first. I can see them trading Payne for a first. But why? I mean, you invested in those guys to be your cornerstone. So I don't see Allen or Payne going anywhere. Those are the guys that you're going to invest in.
Here we go. Got a good one for you.
All right.
Because this is the type of team that would trade for him too. New England.
Okay.
New England is the type of team that would trade for Ioannidis because they know what's going on.
Hey, you know what they're going to give? A second and nothing less. They might even give a first. If it's
That's what I'm saying. They seem like the type that would give a first. They gave up a first for who's that? Philip Dorsett or somebody? Or
they traded a first for all kinds of.
But they give up first at random times. Sometimes, most times they underpay, but occasionally they'll overpay.
Right.
You know, for the right guy, right?
Right.
But yeah. I completely agree. And like I said, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to ship off Ioannidis, but I think that when you're in a position where you don't have many assets,
right?
And we don't. I mean, you look at the secondary, not many assets. Linebacker, not many assets. Receiver, not many assets. Running back, we had them. We had a little depth before guys decided to be an idiot. And then you don't have any depth at quarterback either. You don't have depth at tight end. You sometimes, if you have a strength that's like strength on strength on strength, like our defensive line, that's where you can afford to get rid of stuff, right?
I mean, I totally get it.
Who gets you more value? You could trade Kerrigan, but he's on the back end of his career, and you don't get as much as you would get for Ioannidis.
And Kerrigan says he wants to be here. He said, I've said it publicly.
And that's great.
I've said it privately. And I love it because what that means is after this season, it's going to be a hometown discount.
Exactly. I say bring him back, let him retire here. You know, absolutely. So that's why, to me,
he said Pat ain't giving up a first this season. Opt out for Lawrence. Most definitely, man. That's my
what I will say is whether or not I can't see Belichick trying to lose. It doesn't seem like it's part of his DNA.
Right. You're gonna see New England play hard. And then if they lose, then they lose. But I think he's really going to that's why he went and got Cam Newton, man.
Exactly. They wouldn't have signed Cam Newton if they were trying to lose. It's just not part of Belichick's DNA to say, hey, let's tank it this year and let's get this guy, because
Right.
he's always going to assume that he can get his guy anyway, right? So what I will say is New England's the type of team that would give up a second. And Cam's got the biggest chip on his shoulder, just like you're saying, James. Cam's got the biggest chip on his shoulder this year. They're not going to lose. I mean, they're not going to be a great team. They don't have the talent, but Cam is going to throw the team on his back like he did for a couple years in Carolina. He's trying to shut some haters up. So I can't see New England really going less than 8-8 just off of Belichick's coaching. And
that division is trash, man. Come on, man. Miami, the Jets. Come on, man. That's 4 wins right there.
I'm telling you, New England's not going to go less than 8-8. And everybody wants to say it's the end of New England. I hate New England.
Right.
Trust me, I hate New England.
Me too.
They will not go less than 8-8.
Hey, you know what's so funny? Quick story. So my friends over at NFL Smack Talk. So if you guys are on Facebook and looking for a great football group to talk trash in, is look me up on Facebook on NFL Smack Talk. But anyways, they were trying to get me to come out to DC for that New England and Redskins game. You know what I said? Nope.
Dude, I said, remember the game that we played New England and they were up like 50 at halftime? Do you remember that?
Man, I remember, man. I remember.
Never will I go to a Redskins New England game.
Look, I'm glad I got to go to a Redskins game. I went to the Redskins game versus the Atlanta Falcons, man, a couple years ago. And I was pissed off, man. I'm like, yeah, man, because you know I lived in DC and everything, lived in Maryland, but never got to go to a game because I was so young. So I'm like, all right, you know, flew in from Nashville, got my hotel, got a rental car. I'm like, this is gonna be a good weekend, bro. I had seats, amazing seats. I'm sitting like 1 row from the field. I was right behind the special teams, Tressway. I was on the right of the end zone. So I'm thinking, man, it's going to be a good game. ATL sucks. We suck. You know what I'm saying? It's the battle of the trash. Somebody's got to win. I'm thinking we're going to put up points because Atlanta's been giving up a lot of points that year defensively. Man, we got smashed, bro. We got smashed. Oh, man. But the good thing was I had like free drinks, free food sitting there in the front in the dream seats area. So it was good to see a Redskins game, and I'm glad I got to go before they changed the name. You know what I'm saying? Because the name can be something like the Red Rattles or the Red Cobras or something crazy. You know what I'm saying? You know, I know James is pushing for the Red Wolves, so I don't mind Red Wolves. I don't
like Red Wolves. It's grown on me.
Yeah, some of the names that I've been seeing, I don't mind. So the Back Row Red Wolves show, it's not bad.
I like Red Wolves. I like Red Tails. You know, those are the leader in my club.
Hey, you know a name that I saw today that I kind of liked was the Burgundy and Gold. The Washington Burgundy and Gold. I know it sounds crazy. The Washington Burgundy and Gold, man. It feels right. The Back Row Burgundy and Gold show. Love it, man. It's beautiful.
What about the Hogs?
The Washington Hogs. It's not bad. Just don't give us no goofy looking pig with some with some stuff looking like Timon and Pumbaa. Nah, you know.
The Rexes. The Rexes. I don't know about that one.
I haven't seen that one.
The Rexes.
The Rexes.
What does that even mean? Like T-Rex? The Washington Rexes. Is that supposed to be like
dude? I've
similar to Redskins. Oh man.
Oh, T-Rex. She said T-Rex.
Wow. Okay.
Oh man. Did you see the post by the Washington football team? They said that the new hashtag is 1932, right? And everybody went crazy. Like, oh nah, it's HETR forever. It's HETR for life. And then they deleted that tweet. They said, oops.
Yeah. Listen, here are my criteria. I don't really care what you name the team, as long as you can keep the HTTR, right?
Well,
and as long as you can keep the theme song. You know, you got to keep the colors. Oh yeah. And then if we can keep the construct of the theme song the same,
Right.
you know, if it's, you know, hail to the Red Tails or whatever.
Hail to the Red Wolves.
Yeah, we got to work on that a little bit, you know. But I think if you can keep the colors, the HTTR, and the general construct of the theme song, it'll go smoothly.
Hey, same here, man. I'm all about the colors, man. I've said it over and over and over again.
Colors, man. Listen, by the next time we shoot, I'll let you see what the man cave looks like and all this kind of stuff. There's so many Redskins colors here. There's no turning back now.
Hey,
you gotta keep the colors.
Burgundy and gold, man. Just imagine if they gave us like green and blue, or man,
can't do it. Gotta keep the color. I mean, you know,
silver, red and white. Red and white is not too bad, but man, it's like
I'm DC born and bred, right? And all the other teams have correctly gone back to the red, white, and the blue, and that's cool. But the caps have to be red, white, and blue. We tried to do that weird black and thing and blue thing. It didn't work. The Wizards did the same thing with the weird blue and the gold and black, and they ended up coming back. But the Redskins have always been the burgundy and gold, no matter what everyone else changes to. You see the car flags in DC.
Hey, the Washington burgundy and golds. The Washington burgundy and gold, man.
Doing too much.
Washington B&G. B&G, baby.
Doing too much. No. Gotta be a team. Gotta be something. I'm all for abstract. I don't know if I'm that abstract.
As we wrap up, do you have any final remarks, comments, thoughts? Let's
see. I will say Oh, wait. Sorry. Yeah, I have to say this because I saw this in the news this week. I love Alex Smith. Great guy. Great whatever. Alex, be a coach, buddy. I do not want to see your leg snap on TV. I admire your passion. I admire your comeback story. We love you. We will embrace you as one of ours. Get a front office job. Don't do it. Don't. I feel like I'll cringe every time he drops back.
Man, I've said the same thing. This is how we send off Alex Smith. I said this on the I forgot what show I said it on. The Big Three, the DMV Big Three show. I said victory formation, week 17. Take that one snap.
Yep.
Kneel, standing O from the virtual, because we're going to be virtual.
Yep.
And that's how we send you off.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll say that we have no reason to trot him out. I feel like it would be irresponsible as an organization, regardless of his passion, regardless what he says. It would be very irresponsible. Seeing how graphic those 1,000 plus all purpose. Okay. That's ambitious right there. If you said 700 plus.
Hey, I hope he's right. If this happens, we're going to the Super Bowl. I don't care. I don't care what anybody has to tell me. If AP rushes for 1,000 yards and then Love, let's say 70 and then 300 receiving, and then Gibson is like half and half. Oh man, that's a playoff team.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I don't see that. I
said if it happens.
Oh yeah. I think if any team has 3 running backs get anywhere close to 1,000 yards, that's a playoff team. Right. I mean, that's a Super Bowl team, right? But it's not going to happen. 500, I completely agree with that. Assuming everyone stays healthy, I agree with it. Here's my actual final.
I'll say 700.
700. I think that 2 of them will be over 700. To say 3 over 700 is ambitious. Who would you say was the best running back stable last year? Like group of running backs, not individual. We're not talking about McCaffrey.
San Francisco.
San Fran. All right. Let me see how many all-purpose yards their running backs got last year.
It was awful.
Let me see. I'm going to check this out.
Look at Chev. Chev came out of nowhere like 1,000 plus.
Yeah, that's pretty ambitious. Let's see. So last year, San Fran had the best running back group. All right. So we had Breida with 623 yards, Mostert with 772,
yep.
Coleman with 544. Now he said all purpose, so we're going to add the receiving yards. Breida had 623 plus 120 receiving yards, so that's 743. Mostert 772 plus 180, so that's 952.
Man, why you doing?
And then Coleman with 544 plus 180, which is 720. See, 700 I can vibe with.